Hey, Steve.
Hey, Chris.
So, doing something a little different. What was a tradition for me when I was a part of Gamers with Jobs. No longer really going there. But one of my favorite things every year was to do the bold predictions. So this podcast is dedicated to starting our own little predictions trend where we try and make we look back on what we predicted last year, see how inaccurate or accurate we were, and then make new ones into the new year. Now, because I'm Mr. Serious Man, my predictions became less and less bold and more industry analytical. But this
Boo.
yeah, boo. This one, it will be mostly me discussing my predictions with you guys chiming in. Maybe I'll better prepare next year. But we'll have well, yeah, we'll look at some of mine from last year, and then as we go through each company, we'll discuss and analyze, why those predictions, and figure out, yeah, what might happen in this gaming year. But yeah, so I guess let's get started. Let's switch over to last year's post, collecting all of my predictions for 2022. So
Ooh.
unfortunately, I'm not screen sharing with you guys on Discord, so hopefully you can see on the stream. Actually, maybe I should enhance that. Enhance. Oh wow, it's not working because
Zoom
I'm
in
still
and
in Streamlab.
enhance.
There we go. Enhance. There we go. That's big characters that I'm sure helps. Um, so my first one was Amazon makes a sizable move on studio acquisition in an effort to bolster. Oh, we got a first time chatter, and it's a spammer.
How
It's a
dare you?
spammer. Do we have mod powers right now?
Um,
Because Streamlabs is really bad with handling mod powers.
well, I can't mod. I don't have that power.
Yeah, I can only do a ban and a report.
Ripperoonie. Rest in piss, you won't be missed.
Spam. Again, it's like which are these? It's like all of them. It's all three because it
I mean,
always is.
honestly, if they're not spamming my chat, I just leave them.
Oh, there we go. Message deleted. Yay. Is Asuna in the chat? Because she's usually really good on being on top of. Nope, not yet. Message deleted. All right. Yes, Amazon makes a sizable move on studio acquisition in an effort to bolster their own presence in gaming. Desperate to catch up to Microsoft as their attempts to create their own studios has been rocky, to put it mercifully.
I'm gonna
So
mute my phone.
I
Yeah, I
think
believe this could actually happen.
no. This was
Um,
from last year. This was my prediction. This was the
oh,
beginning
from
of
last year. That's
2022
right.
that I predicted would happen in 2022, and I think this happened.
Eh, I like they acquired something, but I
They
don't.
acquired some, but not much. I think they had more closures than anything else. So,
Yeah,
and
like because
same.
they had that failed MMO and they had something else, um, and I think they have something else that's currently in the works, but I don't. Yeah, they didn't have much of a gaming presence over last year, and whatever presence they did have was mostly not good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, was that the early 2022 that they launched their MMO and it kind of
I
seemed like it was gonna be a big deal,
feel
or was
like
that 2021 when they launched that?
I feel like that was 2021 when they launched
It's been so
Brave
long.
New
And
World or something like that. A new
yeah,
world, something about a new world of some sort.
it might have just been called New World.
I think that actually, you're right. I think it was just New World. Um, I think that was 2021, and it did all right, but it wasn't great, and it had a lot of issues. And
Yeah,
as far as I'm aware, support kind of ended. Like the closest they had this year was a Korean free to play um, game of some sort that was big for a little while, and then people are like, "Oh, never mind, microtransactions out the wazoo." So
yeah.
it was
It was not a good look for them this past year, honestly.
nah. It's one of those things where Amazon kind of exists and they're trying to get you to use their Luna service. But
Right.
all right,
Like there's potential there, you know. Like I'm not opposed to Amazon breaking into the gaming space, but this is not a good first showing at all.
theoretically, I'm not against anyone breaking into the gaming space so long as they do it well and don't try and be slimy about it, which is one of the reasons that, and again, it's like Amazon screwing up, Google completely failed with Stadia. So
Yeah.
it's like the closest thing to doing a decent job is Apple Arcade. Only who like I feel like the only thing more successful than well, okay. It's like the only thing that Apple TV is more known than is Apple Arcade, if that makes sense.
I think I know where you're going.
We're kind of
Because
like
honestly,
if in-
Apple Arcade just seems like another. Remember PlayStation TV? Remember that? It it seems a lot like that.
well, so Apple Arcade, I have a little bit of experience with because I actually have a subscription because we're like an iOS household. The thing I will say about it in terms of basically outside of Roblox, which I hate that I have allowed that into my home. The only
You got to lock
games
that
that
crap
my
down,
kids,
man.
yeah, the only games my kids play are on Apple Arcade because there's a pretty good library of free games that you can play on your tablet or your phone that are of an elevated quality. You know, they're not free. You're paying like the $4.99 a month, but it's shared across the whole, iCloud family. All the games have
Yeah.
no ads, and they're definitely much better quality than your typical free phone games.
And
So
that's
it
the
is
thing.
actually kind of
I
a
played
nice
I played at least
service.
one that was originally an Apple Arcade game. Like there's a bunch of Apple Arcade games that get ported to Switch later on. And even again,
Yeah.
like Hironobu Sakaguchi's Mistwalker game, Fantasian is on there, right? Which Steve,
Yeah,
you've
I
played
honestly haven't
Fantasian, right?
played that. I should play it because I like that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm sitting here like
The
none of us have Apple Arcade, and here you are with Apple Arcade, and
I
it's like,
do have Apple Arcade. Yeah, so
bro,
like big games that have the kids have played was Sneaky Sasquatch and
What a name.
shoot. There's one with has a really cool name. You'd know it if you heard it. There've been a few games. The one that actually just got announced for Xbox that was like it was on PlayStation and Apple Arcade. You're running
the Pathless.
it's the Pathless. Yeah, Pathless.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was another one that got some Apple Arcade play. So yeah, we definitely use it. It's a good system. I don't think it's revolutionary, and I don't think it would replace something for most people like a
It's
dedicated console.
it's
But
effectively Netflix is competing with Apple Arcade, and most people don't realize it as Netflix tries to jump into the game space themselves because their model is very similar to Apple Arcade, where they have these premium kind of games that, as long as you have a subscription to their service, you get access to playing on your phone, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
yeah,
it sounds about right. I thought of it more as like a like the next logical step from the PlayStation TV or Vita TV, whatever it was. Do you guys remember what that was?
yeah,
Except
I
it was
actually really wanted a Vita TV. Sayonara Wild Hearts. That was the other one I was trying to think of.
That was
yeah,
Apple
I have heard of
Arcade?
that.
Yeah, that was Apple. That's on Apple Arcade. It's like a
Oh, wow.
rhythm. Yeah.
Shantae and the
Um,
Seven Sirens also started on Apple Arcade before it got ported to everything else.
No, a bunch of
Yeah.
games did.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
thing.
so
Like it's not a bad home for it, but
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not familiar with the Apple TV end of Apple Arcade because that's kind of a different.
well,
That
Apple
seems to be
TV
like a,
is just their streaming service, where they have their own exclusive like movies and TV shows.
or I mean, they have a device, I guess. Also, the Apple TV device, which
Oh,
then
Apple
Oh.
Arcade isn't like its own device then.
no, it's a service for Apple devices that lets you, play a pretty large selection, well curated selection of games for a flat monthly cost.
Gotcha. But you can access Apple Arcade using Apple TV.
I'm not sure. That's
Oh.
actually was my question. I didn't know. If
No,
you
I
knew
don't. I
that.
don't think the two services are related in that way. No. When I said Netflix, though, again, it's like because Netflix is trying to break into being a games publisher kind of a thing, while also
Yeah.
developing some of their own games. Um, this also goes to show it's like if I kind of wish I had been more thorough, made predictions there, but I don't know enough about either of those services. But they're like the Trojan horse element where they're not doing things too badly, but they're also not doing things well enough to be a major like known success.
Yeah.
But like, what are the numbers on Netflix's gaming subscription service would be interesting. Well, it's not even a separate gaming subscription. It's as long as you have a Netflix subscription, you can log into like whatever Netflix games app thing there is on your phone and play. And there's like Devolver Digital kind of games on there. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And then there's, a couple of games based on their own exclusives. Like there's a, Queen's Gambit game of some sort that's chess based. And some kind of, I don't know, dating island love based game based off something they got on there. But yeah, it's a whole bunch of stuff. But again, I didn't want to spend too long on last year's, so I also had Sony acquires a few more studios in 2022, but none as obvious as Bungie. I don't know why I even said obvious as Bungie. They kind of weren't obvious, but each
Yeah.
acquisition will indicate a push towards metaverses and VR more than anything. Back in the beginning of 2022, metaverses did seem like a big name, but now not so much. Nobody in the gaming sphere seems like they're pursuing metaverses.
Yeah.
Metaverses died faster than blockchain. And so that's interesting, but VR.
So would now be a bad time to announce my blockchain-based metaverse game?
Yes. Yes, it would be. It's
Okay.
essentially dead on arrival, but hey, you do you, homie.
Especially if you're announcing it on this podcast.
We're gonna have NFTs in the game that you can earn.
Yeah, I'm gonna get all the apes.
Oh my goodness. No, you're gonna get all the clouds because it's gonna be
Oh no, my apes are gone. Ah!
oh my
I
goodness.
lost my apes.
Square Enix's blockchain cloud-based cloud NFT Final Fantasy VII game. Sorry, I'm
That
being
will probably
terrible.
be the third part.
Kill me now.
But you'll play it because it's Square Enix.
I know that's why that's why I'm asking you to kill me now so that I don't play this game.
But
have
no,
no
Dragon Quest
self-control.
III HD2 instead.
I think what does surprise me is when it comes to Sony's acquisitions, it actually wasn't, again, metaverses and VR. It was a very diverse range of a multi-point strategy, we'll say. So they made a bunch of acquisitions earlier in 2022. Not so much in the latter half, but no, it's been widespread. They really were filling out the portfolio. Now,
Yeah, they're definitely trying to diversify. And like in the PS4 era, honestly, like their first party stuff was fairly diverse up until, the latter couple of years, I would say. But yeah, like they're definitely looking to, especially because they had that that like direct where it was like all Japanese games.
well, that I think is a mixture of things because remember they closed all their Japanese studios, but are definitely buying some exclusivity here and there. They want to seem as if they're still the big Japanese console, especially because right now they've lost ground to the Nintendo Switch, especially in Japan. Like Japanese
yeah.
developers are starting to push more and more onto the Switch. Nintendo's claimed the ground that even the Vita had. And also more and more game development starting to go to the PC. So Sony wants to seem like in Japan or in the West, even like wherever else, like they're still the big place to go for Japanese games. Which,
I got a
Yeah.
prediction.
But
I got a
also,
prediction.
uh-oh. Wait, we're not at predictions yet.
Oh man,
But keep it in your head. Write down a note.
I've got it.
But
he's
for-
keeping it.
looking at last year, my prediction was they would announce a surprise PC port of a game in their library. Must be a game that no one would expect, such as a newer title on PS5 or a newer title that's currently on PS5, or a franchise that seems abandoned, such as Resistance Fall of Man or its sequels, or more outrageous yet, the Wild Arms franchise. But I noted porting Uncharted games, Ghost of Tsushima, or Spider-Man does not count because they are PS4 games. That wouldn't be much of a surprise. Games like Bloodborne, Killzone, Gravity Rush, The Last Guardian, or Infamous would count as a surprise because Sony barely references them at this point. I think the fact that they're porting Returnal is a sort of accurate because I did not see that coming. I
I kind of saw it coming.
I didn't expect a PS5. Actually, that's one of the reasons. Actually, yeah, I said as a newer title on PS5. I didn't expect
that prediction was met, essentially.
Yeah, I didn't expect them to port anything from the PS5, and yet. So, yeah, that was a bit of a surprise, and that opens up the door, which we'll get to later when we're discussing things. Sony announces a new IP in 2022, but will not be slated for release until 2023 at the earliest. Did they?
Nah, I don't think so.
When was their direct that they announced the and I guess it also depends on what is a new IP, but when was the Sony presentation they announced the Wolverine game?
I mean, does that count, really?
It's technically not a new IP in general, but it is a new Sony IP.
I mean, I mean, yeah, but I feel like that was announced in like maybe 2020, 2021. It was a while ago that they brought that up, and it was just like a title screen, it was a
teaser.
Like the easiest of teasers. It was like Metroid Prime 4.
It was a CGI pre-render, no gameplay. So, Sony announces their Game Pass competitor. Instead of console wars, we have subscription wars, where two sides bicker on Twitter and in comment sections over which is the clearly superior choice. And
that happened.
Well, PS Plus happened, but I didn't see bickering anywhere. My guess is that nobody really cares about the differences, even though, I mean, I've discussed, I do think technically, when it comes to the size of the library, the new PS Plus is probably better bang for your buck, but it emphasizes newer games a heck of a lot less versus Game Pass primarily focusing on newer releases and having as much of a backlog as they can, of course, but
yeah, and that's kind of like the main difference here. And plus, like, it's like what does a PlayStation player really want, right? Like, when I was playing on PS4, I would stick to a lot of first party and a lot of new stuff and multiplayer, and like a subscription service didn't really appeal to me. But now that I have the Xbox and there's an entire generation of games that I missed, and an entire backlog that I have with the 360, it's like Game Pass was obvious. So I don't know. I think like the subscription services are just different in what they focus on, like you said. So it's not really about what is better or what is worse. It's more about what it offers.
I do wonder also if the different pricing tiers did Sony no favors and only confused the message more. Even though I think if you get their most expensive tier, it's the same as getting the Game Pass Ultimate. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
So Microsoft will make no further acquisitions so large as Activision Blizzard, which was an easy grab. Microsoft will have gameplay footage at Summer Game Fest of Avowed, Redfall, and Fable. Oof! 1 out of 3. At least one of those will get a concrete release date. I think Redfall did until it was delayed. So,
I mean, that's a pretty weak prediction. One of these three announced games will get at least one will get a prediction.
Well, I was already wrong about what will be shown. Only 1 out of 3 of those was shown. Like Avowed's been a no-show. Fable was a no-show.
I forgot about Avowed. What is Avowed even supposed to be?
Everyone was predicting it's supposed to take place in the Pillars of Eternity universe, I believe. I believe that one's Obsidian.
It's like it's the Skyrim right?
Well, that's what everyone was predicting. I don't think it's going to be nearly as big because it's Obsidian.
Oh,
but
probably not. It's probably going to be something a lot more concentrated, and probably still an RPG, but
oh,
you
definitely an
know,
RPG.
yeah.
But Hellblade: Senua's Saga will be Microsoft's first major first party hit of the generation when it releases. They teased it at the end of Game Awards 2021, and then nothing. So
Yeah.
off. Microsoft had everyone recognizes at this point. I was expecting too much for Microsoft first party in 2022. And I think a lot of people, like, because that's the thing, like, the big thing about 2022 is Microsoft had nothing first party with except for like some smaller things, and they weren't bad. Like, they helped fund As Dusk Falls. They got Pentiment out there. Like, it was smaller things that people liked, but they didn't have anything big. So we've effectively got the one Xbox Series release of 2021 was Halo Infinite, and even then was cross-platform.
Oof.
And yeah,
Oh,
again, oof, it turns out. Like, not bad, but not really great. Like, it's been a long time since they've really had something. So at least one new IP will be announced at Microsoft Summer Game Fest presentation. I do not remember well enough what they actually. I think that was when they announced Pentiment. So there you go.
yeah, I think that's right.
There is no official news or statement on a Switch follow-up console, and the Pro is dead in the water. Rumors will circulate of new hardware. I think the Pro idea is dead in the water.
Yeah,
There are no more rumors of the Pro.
yeah, because like the OLED came out, but that was back in like what 2021. Yeah, that was 2021 alongside Metroid Dread, and like that is the upgrade, and thank God that's the upgrade because like you don't have to seek out better hardware. Like the PS4 Pro, I love it, but the fact that I have it is just like because it's just such a menial, well, not menial, but it's just like a minor, like just the minorest of upgrades, and
Yeah, it's not a real upgrade. It's basically for
yeah,
latecomers, and we'll get a little bit more into that. But haha, swing and
absolutely.
a miss. Astral Chain 2 was not announced.
Yeah, it's a big
Um,
hell no.
I don't even think I touched Platinum Games in this year's predictions. Now that I think about it. The new Fire Emblem is announced, which was true. Bonus points if it's a remake of Genealogy of the Holy War.
Nope.
At the time, it seemed like the logical step because they were priming the Fire Emblem Echoes line to be like, this is going to be our remake brand, Echoes, where we're going to remake old games. And considering where they were going with, child units, Genealogy of the Holy War seemed a logical next step. And then instead they just made Fire Emblem Engage, which is a lot of interesting ideas that are honestly, from what I played so far, much more interesting than the child units. So, and continuing to be completely wrong, Metroid Prime 4 will have a trailer and be slated for 2023. Big no. Metroid Prime 1 remake remaster is real, and everyone that hasn't been up on the rumor mill will be angry that it's not the entire trilogy. It will be overpriced around 40 to 60. The latter half I'm sure would have been true if this actually was a thing.
It'll be Metroid Prime plus Prime's Fury.
A new Donkey Kong game was not announced. This one has
Nope.
been haunting me for years, right? Because it was originally announced in 2016 and then had like a teaser trailer in 2017. And aside from a couple updates that it's not dead, silence. Project Re Fantasy finally gets a real title and trailer, releases 2023. No word still. Complete silence for years. For
So what is Project
years.
Re? I've never heard of this.
The original director of the Persona 3, 4, and 5 um, took a bunch of Persona devs to go make a brand new fantasy RPG.
Uh,
And that's about all that's really known for it. And yet that's enough to get me interested, especially because I don't think they're going to be basing it off of Shin Megami Tensei. And that's the thing, like Persona is a Shin Megami Tensei battle system.
yeah.
So you get these guys together to make a game that's not tied to Shin Megami Tensei or Persona, making a new fantasy role playing game with the intent of trying to reimagine it. That's especially what the trailer tries to imply. I'm interested. I'm curious. I really want to see what they're going to do. Who the F knows? Because now there's rumors circulating of a Persona 6. So,
Well, yeah, I think that's just inevitable.
and it's inevitable, but it's like if that releases before Project we'll get to that. Then I said the actual holiday schedule continues to be filled with big familiar names, but the games with the most anticipation are slated for Q1 2023. Half right, I think, because I do think the first quarter of this year, like January, February, and March, has more hype behind it than the releases of October, November, and December.
At least so far.
At the same time, there was a lot of stuff that was not familiar names going on last autumn. Like there's a lot of games that people played, people bought, people got through, that were either, especially if you had Game Pass, that were just new IP, or were just these. I mean, A Plague Tale Requiem was not a familiar name, right? I mean, it was a familiar name, but it's not like this is it wasn't an Assassin's Creed, right?
Right.
Like we had Pokemon and we had Call of Duty, but we had a lot more than that. So while I don't think we had a lot that was going to be, except for God of War Ragnarok, I don't think we had anything that was as hyped as some of the stuff coming out in the beginning of this year. In the beginning of this year, as we might get into a little bit, is actually starting strong, aside from Forspoken.
Aside from your mom.
Whoa!
You already pre-ordered it, didn't you? But, well, actually, it's already out, so if you pre-ordered it, you would already have it. But no, sorry, go ahead.
I bought it.
Yeah, of course you did.
It's just I was talking about on the Discord before. I can't install it until I beat Gotham Knights and probably Solstice, so that I can delete them and then have enough space to install Forspoken.
I'm going to hurt a little bit when you uninstall Solstice because
I'm not going to uninstall it until I finish it. I'm already on chapter 10.
Good, but it's so worth replaying. It's such a good game.
I don't.
He might find out.
I know you don't
find
replay games. You're.
I don't replay games a lot. Yeah.
So, no, the what I do mean though is Fire Emblem Engage is actually a good start for the Switch. Like it actually is a pretty solid game. Good start for RPGs in general this year. Just the story's lacking because it's Intelligent Systems, not the Paper Mario group. But now, like, Hi-Fi Rush just released, and we'll get to that in a little bit too. Like a surprise announcement, bad opening trailer, really bad.
Oh my
trailer.
god, that trailer is awful.
Awful. But like everything
that?
I've seen and I've looked at and the reception, dude, this game's it's the exact opposite of the reception of Forspoken. Forspoken had years of hype that gradually became more and more cynicism and dread until it releases and it's like it drops like a wet fart basically. And then like Hi-Fi Rushes, man, this is a bad trailer. The game hits, people play it on Game Pass, people buy it for $30 on Steam. That's the other thing. $30. $30 in an era where games are starting to cost 70, and it's like just nothing but positive. Nothing but positive. And it's like, wow, what a start. And then Dead Space review embargo just released today, and I've seen nothing but positive. Like the biggest complaints are usually it's like, I mean, my only complaints are things that were from the original game. Like the melee combat's not that great, and you still have the heavy stomp, but heavy stomp is fun. So it's like that's the reception to the Dead Space remake. So that's a great start right there. Like 4 releases and one of them is a somewhat dud. That probably would be perceived fine if it was released at like $30 or $40. So
right, exactly.
All right. But that's just a general idea of like the kind of predictions I made last year. My notes went into far more speculative detail for this year. How zoomed? Oh, it doesn't zoom in this far. All right. But if we zoom in a bit, we start with our predictions for 2023, and by our I mean mostly me with some Joey on the side. Pardon me as I blow my nose real quick.
I'm
Actually,
just here
Joey.
for snarky comments.
Yeah, well, actually, Joey, let everybody know your strategy for predictions this year.
I wanted to just come up with stuff that was outlandish and probably not gonna happen. I think there's like one thing I have that is like actually realistic, but everything else is just like probably the worst possible thing or probably like the best possible thing, or just not even on the cards. So if any of them come true, I will be absolutely shocked. Like this would just be like bizarro world stuff if like any of it actually came true.
Yup, the exact opposite approach of me, but that's actually kind of a good foil. Um,
Yeah, that was the point.
so in that regard, we'll actually start with your prediction for Nintendo. We'll start with Nintendo predictions first.
Oh boy.
Because they're always, for some reason, they're always the first to come to mind because they're Nintendo. Your prediction is Metroid Prime 4 is canceled.
Could
Which
you imagine?
which when looking for an image for this little Nintendo header, discovered that last year Retro Studios updated their header. And what is this? The last comment they made on January 27th? We are looking for a tools engineer and a technology engineer to join us on our journey to develop Metroid Prime 4. So,
A year ago, like almost like
after
tomorrow would be exactly a year
years,
ago.
but this is after 3 years to be fair. So, after 3 years of development, they're still hiring people. Now, and I don't mean that as a bad or a good thing. I honestly don't know enough about development of tools in a game, except perhaps they're now, reconfiguring things to, because as we're both going to start, like you say, details of the new system start leaking. That's the one that's reasonable, right? Details of the new system start leaking. I'm kind of the same place. I'm predicting we'll start to get more new, or I should have somewhere. Oh, I say no Switch successor in 2023. But I do believe, like you, we're going to start getting some level of information, even if it's just leaks, because
Yeah.
we're now concluding technically the sixth year of the Switch. Well, it's one of those weird things, right? Because 2017, it's 0 years old, but it completes its first year.
Right.
We're completing its sixth year on the market.
Yeah. Yeah, and normally around this time, that's when people like the hardware is starting to feel old, and PC games are just like killing it visually, and we want to be able to play games at the at that kind of level.
Well, it's not
So
just
You know,
that.
it's an interesting indicator is the newest Fortnite season. They upgraded the Unreal Engine that they're using for Fortnite,
oh
and last gen consoles. I play it like occasionally with the kids, probably like once a week. And previously, it felt like there was general parity between all the systems. Like the new systems looked a little nicer, ran at a higher frame rate, but it is really killing the Switch and PS4 and Xbox One right now.
are you using the base PS4 or PS4 Pro, by the way?
So we actually have both in the house, and the PS4
Okay.
Pro still is fine. The base PS4 is chugging, dropping frames, really makes a competitive shooter borderline unplayable on the base PS4 and Xbox One,
Wow.
and the Switch as well. So
Yeah, and the Switch was already struggling when it
so
came to
I
Fortnite.
think that a game that I know Nintendo's not really part of Nintendo's strategy, but just from my like small sample size, 3 of the kids that my kids play Fortnite with often play on the Switch. Like it's typical, the typical household is going to have one, like seems like you have one, say an Xbox Series S or X now, or a PlayStation 5 and a Switch. So if there's 2 kids in the house, one will get to play on the Xbox latest, and the other's playing on the Switch. So there is going to be some pressure to upgrade the Switch, I think, coming from that. Like, oh, that's how a lot of people are using it, is
If there are
playing games like
developers,
Fortnite.
if there are developers that want Microsoft to drop the Series S, even though the Series S is by far better selling than the Series X, there's
Is it
definitely
actually?
pressure. I believe the Series S is selling better. Yeah.
Well, I
No
mean,
way.
just from
That's
a
surprising.
just when I got mine, it was like they would get like I happened to be at a store, and like this was like obviously a while ago now, but like when it first came out, it was like, oh yeah, so GameStop got in like 2 Series X's and 10 Series S's. And they said it would take him about 2 weeks to sell. Or they'd get it like that was like I don't know, like a monthly drop or something at the one GameStop. They'd sell all of the they'd sell all the X's immediately and sell the S's in 2 weeks. So even though it was selling slower, they were selling a much higher volume of S's during the shortage period.
That's part
I
of it
would
is the
guess there's
shortage.
significantly
Yeah, that
more
makes
out
sense.
there.
But I also think part of it too is because during the holiday season of 2021, I know that's also around when you started to see that the Series S was starting to pick up sales because you can get this affordable next generation games console for $300 or so.
Yep.
So cheaper than both
And
the
you wouldn't be able to play in
PS5 and
4K, but like there's just like some features that like get kneecapped, but it's really not that much of a compromise,
and
honestly.
well, the thing is too, you got to ask yourself, does the person buying the Series S care as much about that stuff?
And probably not, because like odds are they're not like me where they have a backlog of 360 games that they would want to still be able to play
But that's part of it,
physically.
yeah, because you got to be able to yeah, it doesn't have a disk drive, so that is
Right.
an issue. But no, the other thing is just, again, I think part of it is affordability. If And I think what's going to be difficult for Nintendo is what are they going to be doing with the new system? We've discussed this before. What is the new system going to look like? Because they're going to want to do more than just more powerful hardware. And even if you get something like the Steam Deck, right? Look at the Steam Deck. It's a good piece of kit. It's less portable than the Switch, and the Switch is already struggling to be a portable machine. So it really does come down to what is the plan for the next generation? What are they going to try? And, well, I'm curious to see, but I just don't think we'll be seeing it released in 2024. I do suspect, and again, like actually, the Digital Foundry guys in one of their podcasts did discuss it a bit, and I think they were in agreement with what I think. I think Nintendo found out they can release earlier in the year and be successful. It doesn't have to be a holiday release for the console. You can still do well so long as you're affordable enough and you have the right launch marketing and strategy. And so if we see anything, we'll get a tease this year. But my official
Yeah, maybe.
prediction, I'll be holding myself to is just no Switch successor in 2023. So when we come back around a year from now, that's going to be what determines whether I was right or not. None of the other speculation.
I think that's a safe bet, honestly. Like I I'm sure they're having a tough time trying to figure out what to do with the next hardware because like the Series S costs the same amount as the Switch right now. And the Series S is like offering like an actual next gen experience at the cost of some visuals and some hardware. Like it's kind of great if you haven't had an Xbox before and want to take advantage of Game Pass.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like
That's effectively what
and
it's designed to be as a Game Pass machine.
yeah, whereas the Switch is like it's the portable and home console hybrid, but now like as a home console, the moment it hit the market as a home console, it was obsolete.
Yeah.
But
So
now
like
more so than ever.
I love I have a PS5 and I've got it hooked up to a OLED and all that stuff and it's amazing. But I do just kind of love the Series S because it's cheaper, it's small. I could imagine getting more than one for my, household with 4 gamers in it basically. And like I don't know, there is just something about it. The size, the whole package. It's just, I don't know. I really love it.
No, I mean,
I'd
you
be
actually
mad
bring
if
up a
they.
point. Like I still got my Xbox One X for like a secondary system to play some other games and stuff that aren't too intensive. I could easily replace that with a Series S, especially like when if they drop in price like $50 in the future. Not going to happen anytime soon, thanks recession, but um that's the thing. We're talking about Microsoft now. Anyways,
Sorry.
No,
nah,
it's all good. I mean, I think these brought up good points considering like this is what Nintendo is up against with their next hardware. So it really is going to be interesting. I can't wait to see the rumors of their next hardware because but like when the NX, when it was still called the NX, the rumors were
oh
so
yeah.
wild.
All we knew was it's going to be a hybrid, and it's funny because everything that me and some other guys were imagining was so much more complex than what the Switch actually turned out to be. It's like, oh
Remember the
wait,
controller that had like some oval shaped screen on it with like touch controls?
oh
Did you
gosh,
see that?
no, I don't remember seeing that.
It was
Because
horrendous.
the one thing I knew about was yes, like you could take it. It was portable or not, and we were thinking like they were still going to have like separate systems, I guess. But it's like, oh no, you just dock it. But I guess also at the same time, you're expecting the portable option would still be more portable. But no, I think that is the future for them because they always dominated the handheld market. We're never great with the home, but they can dominate both. Like, they could do well in both if you have a system that you can play at home, but you can also take anywhere with you. Because that's the other thing. Like I can easily take my Switch somewhere else and hook it up. Or as I said, like in my old apartment, I had the two docks, and in other scenarios, I had two docks. Why did I have two docks? So I could move my Switch to whatever display I needed it to be at in my house. So you could just get a dock to move the system to, or I could bring the system to another friend's house and put it in their dock. Like you can just whatever you need to do. Like it's really actually a genius, convenient idea. You just and I think that's one of the issues with the Steam Deck is it's portable, but it's still got its own issues that Nintendo is kind of well, I think also because Nintendo's got the library. Steam Deck is a nice piece of kit, but it doesn't offer me what Nintendo does, which is first party library, which
Right.
to cut back, Metroid Prime 4 gets a reveal is the base baseline of my prediction. I
Man,
do
I
believe
hope.
I do believe we will see it this year finally. The thing is, whether I'm not making a predict of the release date because again, part of that does hinge on what's going on with the new Switch. I don't see Metroid being a well. So on one hand, I don't see Metroid being a big enough draw to be a system seller. I don't see it as being the launch game. At the same time, who is your first market? Who's the first people that's going to buy your system?
Right.
The kind of
You know,
people interested in Metroid are actually the ones that are most interested in buying your system on launch day.
bro, that's me. Like
Yo,
if they were like, "Yo, Metroid Prime 4 is going to be like on both the Switch and whatever the Switch 2, if you will, ends up being," I would buy the new console if they bundled Metroid Prime 4 with it
I I guess
day
ready.
one.
I've got
Oh
a
boy.
prediction here. I got a
Uh-oh.
prediction here. If Joey thinks he's got the outlandish predictions, I've got
Oh,
the
here we
actual
go.
outlandish prediction. The next Nintendo console will be similar to the Switch in that it'll be like a dockable portable thing. I'm going to predict that Nintendo is going to over invest in sort of augmented reality, combined reality
Oh no.
type tech for the new Switch. And Metroid 4 could be part of that uh, over investment in AR that goes along with their new console.
I don't like that.
You don't like it because it sounds kind of like Nintendo, doesn't it?
It kind of does because like they well, see that's the thing. They would overinvest but also not, right? Like the Wii
It would be an over
like
under investment. Yeah.
Yeah, like they would
I'm thinking about stuff like that Mario Kart course and Labo and other stuff they've experimented with
Which
the
is
Switch.
funny. It's funny because I'm sitting here like he looked at my paper that says no new announcements of Nintendo Labo, didn't he? Like, because that is the
But-
thing. They're still a toy company, and yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
And my niece has the Mario Kart thing. It works all right. It's pretty good, decent. It's okay. But I wouldn't be surprised if they actually did want to have greater integration with that. And perhaps if they were working with some of the mobile companies they've got partnerships with for greater integration of those kinds of ideas, you might have a point. Adding a
If it's like
camera
pure
to your
VR system, I'm gonna
Switch
be
might
real
be a
upset.
thing. Oh, it won't be as much as a portable VR system. They won't go that far. VR is still
mean-
too niche and expensive a piece of kit. I mean, the PSVR 2 is going to cost as much as the PS5 itself. You need to
Dude, that was-
spend a baseline.
When I saw that, I was like, "You guys are nuts!" Like,
Yeah.
You need to
I'm
spend
actually-
a baseline of $1,000 for it.
I'm kind of the mind that AR is the new VR. That and just in general,
AR's been
actually
around a while. I mean, Pokemon Go is AR technically.
right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of AR games and stuff out there that actually work well that people actually enjoy playing. That are more than just gimmicks. Pokemon Go
Well-
being one example. And so I actually think I do think there is a future in the sort of augmented reality
The
games.
question
think
there,
Go
the
ahead.
question there is because they technically already did explore a lot of that in the 3DS, and technically with the DS. Because once they attached a camera, they started with you had little cards you could do things with. The beginning of Bravely Default, it requires you to use the 3DS in a way that you set it down so I forget the protagonist girl's name, but so she could stand there and on a surface, right? Like,
I forgot about that.
yeah, the 3DS technically already had, so they've technically been dabbling in AR for a while. I think Pokemon Go was a natural evolution of that idea, and the question there is, have they decided AR would work better in their mobile projects, or is it that they started putting it more into mobile projects and are working on ways to implement it on the console? Like, are they, because there's definitely still experimenting with it because it's a technology that can open up the door for being a toy. And again, Nintendo Labo is technically a part of that as well. So that is a possibility. I will not deny you that possibility.
Hmm.
Wow, I
yeah.
actually feel like my opinion is valued for once.
Steve, no.
You lucked into it.
I mean, like, dude, the more we talk about it, the more sense it makes. I think it's going to be that over under I was talking about, where like they'll put enough stock into it where it'll be like nice and novel, but then the more you use it, you'll be like, huh, this is actually kind of cheap. So then they release another peripheral that's like the same thing but a little bit better, and add it and just say it's like give it a plus at the end of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, I think about the Wii U, where there were so many good ideas in the Wii U, and it did end up, I think, resulting in the Switch to some degree, but at the same time, it kind of flopped in other ways.
Kind
But
of flopped.
we should move on probably to
Yeah.
moving.
Oh
We got
yeah, yeah.
next.
Yeah, which
We
is
spent
good
a lot of
because
time on this one.
I also did have like more to say regarding Metro Prime 4. Again, also part of my reason again
Oh
being
my gosh,
like
dude, we got to like
Yeah.
move on. We've got like a
yeah, no, we're
10-page
already
document
yeah,
here.
yeah.
We're I haven't even
Sorry,
gotten halfway through
sorry.
Page one.
Part of this is the conversations on the previous year's predictions. We're ironing things out. We'll get it right next year.
No, we won't.
Zelda, actually, I had a couple of things going with Zelda, like Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD released in 2023 to further make the Wii U obsolete. And Paper Mario Color Splash is ported to Switch to also make the Wii U obsolete because I'm trying to think of what games are left on the Wii U that haven't been ported, and Paper Mario Color Splash is one of them, and so is Star Fox Zero.
Yoshi's
And
Woolly World.
I was just about to say Yoshi's Woolly World.
that wasn't
but-
ported?
No, we got Yoshi's,
Yoshi's
Crafted, World,
Crafted
which
World.
Oh,
apparently
we got a
nobody liked.
sequel, you're right. So who knows if we'll
which
ever
is
get Woolly
a
World.
beautiful,
Yeah.
joyful game, but I would also like a Yoshi's Woolly World port.
All right. And lastly, Joey's bold prediction of a new season pass is announced for Smash Ultimate. That's right. We're gonna bring shoot, how can I forget his name?
Sakurai.
Sakurai. We're gonna pull Sakurai out of his sort of nebulous retirement. All right, moving on to Sony. We got Sony coming up. Yeah, Joey, Bloodborne remake by Blue Point Games, because that's
Ain't,
never
like,
gonna happen.
Ain't happening. Ain't
happening.
happening. We're not gonna get Bloodborne remade for PS5 or PC. It's not happening.
Not happening. My prediction is that Sony will do absolutely nothing interesting or unpredictable in the next year.
Actually, you know what? I think here's something that could be interesting. All right, this might not happen, but what if, like, because Ubisoft isn't doing good? What if Ubisoft gets acquired by, say, Sony? What if, like, and not just Sony? What if they get acquired at all?
I don't foresee that, but I also got Ubisoft predictions later.
All right, well,
I don't
we can save that.
For that point. I don't foresee Ubisoft getting acquired, especially not by Sony. I don't think Sony has enough to acquire one of the big publishers.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree.
PSVR 2 will be well received, but only appeal to a small market because it's VR and because it's $500. So that's an easy one. At least 2 of their live service titles will be revealed, with one of those being the Last of Us Factions game, because that's the one they've spoken the most about. Again, they've confirmed there's going to be a co-op Horizon game that they're working on. They've got people partnered with them. If they make that their own live servicey Horizon Monster Hunter, as we've discussed in the past, I would actually be interested, so long as you don't play as
I'd actually
Aloy.
be down too. That would
Yeah.
actually be pretty sick.
But this is the thing, like, they have to have at least 2 live service titles because they got plans for all 10 that they have in the running by 2025. So we've got to start seeing some of that this year. And then either Horizon Forbidden West or Demon's Souls, if not both, we'll see a PC port this year. Because I don't think they're focusing on older titles at this point. I think any older PS4 games they've kind of ported. I don't think they really have any investment in porting Infamous, even Second Son.
So sad.
So sad indeed, because there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, Infamous Second Son is so good. I mean, the Infamous series, like, the first 2 games have not been brought to PS4, and that blows me away.
Yeah. Sony.
I felt like those were shoo-ins.
There's something about them that Sony decided that's not their image anymore. Like, that's the best that I can really say. Like, I don't know what it is, but
Ooh, I might. You know what? I might know what it is. I'm not gonna say it on the podcast. I'll put it in I'll put it in the text chat.
you got me really curious all of a sudden. But yeah, let's see. PS5 will be carried by third-party exclusives like Final Fantasy 16, Rise of the Ronin, which is that toy Ninja Team Ninja toy Koei Tecmo game, and Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, with Spider-Man 2 being the only internal exclusive. Now, we got this list here of developers that I checked, and I'm kind of uncertain. Like, again, Team Asobi is probably working on something for the PSVR 2, even though, again, we need you really need more Astrobot games, like a full Astrobot game. But for some reason they want Aloy to be their mascot instead of Astrobot. Fire Sprite is mostly helping with things, but also evidently working on a AAA branching narrative adventure, a quality new IP with free-to-play live service structure, and a blockbuster action adventure title. Whether these are all related or only somewhat related, I don't know, but they're working on a lot of stuff, but it seems too early for them to have anything to announce. Guerrilla Games, as I said, they're working on a online co-op game. House Mark just released Returnal, and I don't think they'll be able to release anything new soon. London Studio is another that's traditionally been PSVR. They're working on a live service multiplayer title. Media Molecule hasn't really been doing much new since Dreams. Occasionally they release something made in Dreams, but nobody knows what they're making soon in the near future. Nixies is their PC port studio.
One sec. Did Studio Dream make the Sackboy's Big Adventure, whatever it was, or was that a different studio?
I think that was a different studio. I forgot about that. Yeah, that got a
lot of
PC
people
port.
did. I heard it was good though.
That got a PC port. Yeah, I was. Whew.
No, that
Wait,
actually
what?
was. That was really good. I played most of Sackboy's Big Adventure. Yeah, it was good.
Savage Game Studios is developing a new unannounced AAA mobile live service action game. Whatever the heck that means.
Huh.
XDev.
AAA live service action game. Yo, are they bringing back Mag?
Oh
Remember
god.
Mag?
Oh yeah.
Are they bringing that back?
Before Mag releases, you guys
Gotta be
remember
something.
SOCOM? You remember SOCOM? They're bringing SOCOM back.
Dude, I
Oh
mean,
my
if
goodness.
if they're gonna make it live service, now's the time to bring back either Mag or SOCOM. What, maybe it's something they're doing with Bungie. Who knows?
XDev seems like they're a support studio, and they're currently helping with Rise of the Ronin and Stellar Blade. So, Asian developed third parties that that are bought exclusivity. Ben Studio is working on an open world game, just not Days Gone. From what I've heard in the rumors, I think that's too early. Blue Point Games is working on their own new IP, or at least they're working on an original game. They're not doing a remake or remaster this time around.
You mean?
Yeah, I remember
Bloodborne
that.
PC.
What?
Wait, what did you say, Steve?
Bloodborne PC.
No,
It's not happening. It's not happening.
they're not doing that. No.
There was also a rumor of Blue Point potentially doing a remake of the first Metal Gear Solid. I'd be down for that, but I don't think that's happening at this point.
No, not at this point. Again, because rumor is one of the terms to being acquired by Sony was to make something original from the ground up. That was their own, not a remake or a remaster. So if that's the thing, it's like this says whether it's a whole new IP or a sequel to something, nobody knows. If they make Bloodborne 2, that would be fantastic. But again, not holding my breath. Haven was that was one of the bigger acquired studios, led by Jade Raymond. They're just working on a new IP, but it's too early. Oh, it's going to be live service. So
hiss.
too early. Exactly. They've got so many of these in development. This is where, if we want to take the long speculation game, because again, Insomniac is also working on Wolverine, and evidently they got job listings for a multiplayer
If
title.
Wolverine is live service,
I think they've already
I
said
would-
it's single player.
I would not be happy. I think live service games really need to die.
Yeah, I think honestly,
Isn't it great that Sony's heavily investing in them, not only after they failed for Ubisoft, but after they failed for Square Enix?
Yeah, no. So
I
like,
think this is
listen,
where they die.
So this is where they die. I've been watching Eli play through the Avengers game, and it's
Oh, no.
honestly like there's a decent single player campaign hidden in there. There's really great trappings. Like I know like, oh, we got the stunt doubles joke. But like there's some really solid voice acting, decent storytelling, and other things. There's just a really good game in there, but it's a shame that it's basically going to disappear in 6 months when they shut it down.
I said it after I played the
Yeah.
demo. There was a good bonding moment between Bruce Banner and Kamala Khan.
Yeah.
Kamala Khan, like
Yeah.
there was a good bonding moment in there. It was ruined by some of her, oh my gosh, I'm a fanfic girl on Twitter. Like that helped ruin it. But other than that, it was like, wow, yeah, this is actually some good potential stuff. And
There's some really like for example, the one that comes to mind is later in the game, you build basically an Iron Man suit that can fly into space, and Kamala tells Tony that she loaded it up with his music, and he starts up the suit and it starts playing Flight of Icarus by Iron Maiden while Tony is like launching into space. And it's just like an all around like wow, that was just a really cool moment they put into the game. That
what Eidos just licensed two completely different Iron Maiden songs for two different Marvel games?
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Oh man.
But yeah. But there's stuff like that. Like there was some really cool stuff in there, and it's really a shame that it got killed by the fact that it was a live service game instead of a polished single player experience.
Well, that's why, again, people look at Gotham Knights and it feels obvious. That's why I'm not overly worried about some of the leaks about Suicide Squad, because if Gotham Knights, they pulled back on being live service, and again, it's like the evidence is there. It's very obvious, but I have a feeling, and also there's enough rumors, and a former developer said it, like, it looks like they were going to make Suicide Squad live service, and then seeing where things were going, and also where things were going with loot boxes, they were like, you know what? Never mind. Let's pull back. But then the stuff's too baked in anyway, because as we can see with Destiny, blue engrams are pretty darn baked into the infrastructure of that game. So if you try and remove them, everything collapses.
Ouch.
I've been enjoying some of those memes. But no, to move on. And it's funny because today, evidently, Neil Druckmann, as long as this stupid HBO show of Last of Us, and like, I'm sure it is actually high quality and well done. I've seen Chernobyl, or at least parts of it. It is well done, well written, well acted. Everything's good. So the Last of Us show is going to be what the Halo show was not. And that is good. And that just means I'm going to have to hear The Last of Us even more into the future. Just,
I mean, hey, at least the TV show is like, it doesn't have a mid game attached to
it. But for
I said it.
Neil Druckmann was saying, they're not working on Last of Us aside from the Factions game right now, so they're not working on Part 3. So aside from the Factions game, Naughty Dog is probably working on something. How soon they will release it, who knows? Pixel Opus made Concrete Genie, and they're making something with Sony's Pictures Animation. It is rumored to be a new Sly Cooper game. That could actually be
I'm down for that, dude. Actually, Concrete Genie is definitely, it's one of those short indie games. Definitely worth playing if you haven't.
I could see that team doing a good Sly Cooper as well.
Yeah, I'm actually really, really down for them doing a Sly Cooper game.
And if it's in collaboration with Sony Pictures Animation, that sounds kind of obvious. The question is, can they do
the Spider-Verse style?
Can they do a far better tie-in than the Ratchet and Clank reboot?
Oh yeah, I forgot that there was a movie.
San Diego might be helping out on a new Uncharted. Santa Monica just shipped God of War Ragnarok, so nothing new there. Sucker Punch is probably working on a new Ghost of Tsushima, so we don't know anything else, but I also won't be surprised if they're turning Legends into a full-blown live service for Sony.
Live service.
Ugh.
Another support studio that's helping out, so that's the thing. Like, again, looking through, there's a lot of potential for like a new announcement to be made for Sony, but at the same time, as we could tell, there's a lot of like, this is where, if we speculate when it comes to Sony and Microsoft, I suspect we're going to start seeing Sony losing clout starting with this year. It's going to be very slow. And when I say clout, I mean, like, yeah, a whole bunch of losers like me that have our reasons for not wanting to give Sony money are going to dislike Sony for our own reasons. But most people, again, it's like for most people, it's still like, I want to get a next-gen console. I wonder if I can find a PS5. And Series X is not even in the equation for some reason. It just isn't. And part of that is Microsoft's fault, because Microsoft spent a long time making nothing after a while but Gears of War and Halo, and then those franchises started to tank. So why buy an Xbox, right?
For
Sony,
Game Pass, but you got to I mean, Game Pass isn't like, it's still like kind of an in the know thing, right?
sort of.
You know, like only people I know that actually still play, actively play video games are like, yeah, Game Pass. You know,
Yeah,
they haven't reached that outside market, and that's kind of where Sony has the one up. And plus, Sony was, especially after the last generation, like with the PS4 and Xbox One, like Sony really did like have a stranglehold. Xbox really hurt their brand.
yeah.
Um, it's rough. It's really rough. Like
No, you're
Microsoft. It's weird seeing Microsoft be the underdog, right?
yeah. Um, but that's the thing though, it's good because again, Sony screwed up really big with the PS3 launch. Microsoft screwed up really big with the Xbox One launch. Neither one has screwed up really big at this launch. Sony's is more of a death by a thousand cuts. I don't think they'll ever make a. They're not going to ruin their reputation. They're not, but I do think they're going to hit a point where people are going to wish they were sticking to that, prestige game template, because like what they've made their name on has been single player, prestigious, narrative driven games. Microsoft's going to start catching up this year, and again, they already did with Hi-Fi Rush. Like that right out the gate, right? Sony's exclusive third-party release from Japan versus actually no, like Japan America collaboration, because the director of Hi-Fi Rush is a complete Gaijin who was also evidently director of Evil Within 2. And again, Hi-Fi Rush, nothing but good accolades. Like, you know what? I'll skip right over to looking at that. Like, let's look at some of these. Releases the same day it was announced, hypes you up after its release. Actually fun, original, and satisfying. Has you kicking butt to the beat. High quality game, only asked for $29.99 in 2023. ASCII Chad face. Guy's got 4 hours on record, though only 0.4 hours at review time. But like probably a serious contender for Game of the Year. No Straight Roads done right, which is kind of an oof. They did not have to go as hard as they did. 10 out of 10. Incredibly fun game. It's like a Saturday morning cartoon in video game form. It was really hard to stop playing for a second so I could leave a review. I cannot overstate how much I adore this game. It has been a long time since I've been so immediately and so thoroughly enthralled by a game from the moment it started and held there all the way until like Microsoft just came out the gate in 2023.
Yeah.
And they're setting a tone. Now, can Redfall, Starfield, all of these other games like carry that tone? And that's one of the reasons why I think it's important for them to release something like Hellblade. We'll get into that a little bit later, actually. But that's the thing. This year, I think Sony's still going to have generally. Christopher says all Sony got to do is buy like 5 studios too, except they can't afford it like Microsoft can. They've got a lot though. They've already got a lot of internal studios. Microsoft had to rebuild because Microsoft closed so many. Microsoft did so much damage during the Xbox One era. But that's the thing, like this year.
Do you guys remember Rare?
They're still alive with Sea of Thieves. They also they got that Everwild game.
That's not Rare. That's not Rare. It's not.
Are you saying because
refuse.
Okay. I get what you mean because the people that made Rare are all gone and whoever's left.
Also, it's bad.
Sea of Thieves?
Yeah. I played it. What do you do?
I
do you do in
haven't.
Sea of Thieves?
I think you're a pirate.
You know what?
Yeah, but
First,
what do you do?
Two things.
Pirate things.
One, it's still going to be better than Skull and Bones. And 2, it's
What do you
probably
mean Skull and Bones? Skull and Bones ain't coming out, baby.
honestly, I feel like Sea of Thieves is going to appeal to a 13-year-old kid that wants to be a streamer market better than it's going to appeal to an adult. But I don't know, like it's got an audience. It hasn't failed. They keep updating it. So it's got its audience.
It sure does. I just don't get it because like what do you do?
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I never played it.
Like I tried
I never
playing it.
played
I'm
it.
like, all right, I'm a pirate. What do I do?
But no, as
I guess I keep my ship from sinking.
to finish off from Sony though,
Okay.
again, like everyone's going to still look at this as being an incredible year for Sony because they're going to have, again, Final Fantasy 16 is going to be exclusive. Rise of the Ronin's looking good is going to be exclusive. Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth is going to be exclusive, and then Spider-Man 2. People are going to look at this as a great year for Sony, even though only one of those was internally developed and wasn't bought for exclusivity. Next year, I think, is going to be really interesting to see, but who knows? Maybe they'll make some announcements that surprise me. And again, Microsoft, where again, this is the year with Hellblade Senua Saga. I'm betting on it. We will see it release, and it will be a Game of the Year contender because Ninja Theory is the closest to being able to pull off that prestige story thing that Sony does. But at the same time, Ninja Theory can actually do combat. Like they can actually
Yeah.
do mechanics. They can actually do game mechanics. So, and Hellblade also has all of that like artsiness about being about mental illness and being able to convey that in interesting ways. So that'll like that kind of thing will be eaten up. It'll be like one of the only Game of the Year contenders that's also in the Games for Impact category.
Yeah,
I
the
So-
Games
think
for Impact
I think-
category is such a joke.
My
It's so unfortunate.
my prediction on Hellblade Senua Saga is that it's going to be like what how would I say this? It's going to be this weird cross between being a better action game than the recent God of War games.
Oh wow.
And yeah, I'm saying that. And how would I can't get the thought totally formed in my head right now. Basically, it's going to be like more emo, obviously, but also I think appeal a little bit more to those who felt like God of War went a little bit soft with the two recent games. That it's gonna hit in this interesting sweet spot with maybe a little bit. I don't know. That's my prediction on Senua Saga.
It's going to
I think
actually
that's
be
kind of
dark.
a bold prediction.
I mean, the idea of that, I mean, actually, I could see it being true, but in a subjective way, of the idea of Hellblade having better combat, but we'll have to see. Um,
I mean, I'm curious. Like, I haven't beaten Senua Sacrifice, the first one, but was definitely interesting. I know it's a shorter experience, so and I think that's also something that's going to be interesting about the sequel is that like the original was a budget game that had a AAA look, but was a short experience.
it didn't
kinda
take
like
that long to
permanent-
develop. They made that in like 2 years, which is one of the reasons that it's like, this is going to be a bigger game, but I'm pretty sure, like, I mean, considering when they announced it and how they announced it, this game was decently in development already.
Yeah.
Or at least it was at least in pre-production. I'm pretty sure 2023 is the year we will see it because it's the one we've seen the most of all of the new acquisitions of Microsoft.
So I loved the first Hellblade. Heavenly Sword, I think, is a severely underrated game from the early PS3.
There's
days.
another game that they'll never port to PC and is completely forever lost to the PlayStation 3.
Dude, I love Heavenly Sword. So good. Andy freaking Circus. Come on, people.
You lost your train of thought?
That's the line. No, he's the villain in Heavenly Sword. What's it? Journey to the West?
Enslaved, yeah. Odyssey to the
Yeah,
West or something.
Enslaved,
Yeah.
Odyssey to the West. Another great game. Well, I feel like each of those games, like so far, those being kind of like their three biggest games. I don't know if they really did much in between there.
DMC.
I noticed you. Yeah, I was gonna say. I
Oh,
noticed
yeah,
you didn't say
Dude,
DMC.
okay,
Don't make.
DMC was also awesome. I forgot about
I
that.
love that game, honestly. Like,
I love
unironically,
it
I love
too,
that game.
yeah.
It's a
I
bad
understand why
Devil May
people-
Cry, but it's a really good action game.
Yes.
No.
Exactly.
I think if we get some combination of those things, the sort of cinematicness of like they're great at the cinematic storytelling. They're great at they can build a really good combat system like DMC. They can tell a great story, and they can make that story something bigger than just a great story. This year, I'm still a little bit in that Sony fanboy range, but I think this could be Senua Saga could be like the big moment for Xbox to have something that breaks the sort of Halo Gears of War curse and delivers an amazing like game of the year experience that might be better than God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah, because I imagine Redfall. I need to watch the presentation again. Unfortunately, I had to work too much during that presentation, so I didn't get a good look at how they demonstrated Redfall. But Redfall isn't going to be a Left 4 Dead like. It is going to be one of their
No.
more environmental exploration games, but with co-op options available. I think Redfall is going to be received well, but I don't know if it's going to be that sort of big must. You know, the people aren't going to view it like they view a Sony first party or a Nintendo first
Nah.
party. And Starfield is going to draw a lot of normies in, but most people are going to play it and they're going to be like, it's a Bethesda open world game. I mean, you could see it in how people responded to the first gameplay reveal. It was exactly what I expected it to be, which is why it's
Yeah,
weird to see
yeah.
people look at Starfield and be like, "Oh, it's just Bethesda open world." It's like, you expected them to innovate? It's Bethesda Game Studios. They don't do that. Yeah, I think Microsoft's going to have I think this is going to be a good first party year, but it's not going to be them. We're not going to have a good sense of what things are going to be. At the same time, I do think we're going to start seeing, in part because of Starfield, in part because of other things like Xbox sales will ramp up faster than the PS5s will this year. But I don't think they'll catch up to PS5 yet. I do think most people will still instinctively get, if they're going to get a next gen system, they're going to get a PS5, or people that might have already gotten one but are going to get the other now. Like you're going to see PS5 still be at the top.
I mean, I think Sony can stop the bleeding with here's my prediction for Sony / Microsoft, not really, is they release a sort of Sony equivalent of the Series S, a PS5 Slim sort of deal. And I think that could seriously stop any potential bleeding that begins.
I forgot to comment on that.
Before Microsoft gets to start the bleeding, Sony stops the bleeding with a PS5 Slim.
You might not. So here's the thing, like I've seen two different rumors circulating around. One that they are preparing a PS5 Slim / Pro model. And another that says, no, there's nothing. I've only heard, a confirmed leaker basically. It's like, no, the only thing I've heard is of PlayStation 6. It is definitely too soon for PlayStation 6. And if they do start planning for PlayStation 6 that quick, I think it's going to be shooting themselves in the foot. But
I think a PlayStation 5 Pro would also be shooting themselves in the foot. Like
Well,
playing
one of the
playing
rumors.
I've got a 4K UHD 55-inch OLED. We don't need better graphics right now.
But do you need better performance?
But do you? I don't.
I want
don't
60
see it.
frames a second. Like,
No, I don't see it. I don't see the PS5 Pro. I think would be major wasted resources.
I do think a PS5 Slim is a possibility though, because the logic and the reasoning I saw was evidently they were looking for new parts and new models because they wanted to reduce the size for shipping costs. And again, if we're talking recession, I can see that making sense because if you're going to keep manufacturing the same hardware, you are going to want it in a smaller form factor so you can ship more units for the same amount of money or less money. So I think a PS5 Slim is possible. Barely any
It's gonna
kind
look
of
like a box. Like,
Yeah.
dude. I'm
Well, what occurs to me is kind of what I said before, where like I think more households are having multiple consoles because of the need if you want to play Overwatch and Fortnite and other stuff all together, you can't do as much on one system as you used to be able to do. So in the next couple of years, what I'm looking to buy a second, or I guess third really, next is for a lot of people buying a second, the logical thing to do is if you have a PS5 and you can play these multiplayer games cross-platform, is to buy an Xbox. What Sony needs to do is convince you to buy another PS5 for your second console and not buy an Xbox. And they only do that by releasing a cheaper PS5.
which is unlikely because if they even if they do a slim model, it's not going to be able to be cheaper. Just for them.
Right.
Christophers notes a new Sony console already sounds crazy to me, man. Do most people even have a PS5? And that's another interesting note because I did try and check the numbers, and there's nothing except for Switch. Only Switch has a comparison to all of its previous units for X number of years at this point. But we are at a slow adoption into next gen. It started pretty good, and a lot of people are saying that it's because of supply issues. I think supply issues are part of it, but at the same time, like it went from it's especially interesting if you follow someone like Wario64 on Twitter, right? Where the second someone says, "Oh, Sony PS5 units are on sale online over here," oh, never mind, they're already gone. Now Sony's got their direct program, right? Where if you have a PS Plus account or are a Sony game player, like if you have a Sony system, you can go on a PS Direct and you can get directly from them a Sony PlayStation 5. The
well, now you can even walk into a GameStop and buy one. Like, they have them in stock now.
That's the thing, like they're not selling out anymore. So people were saying supply chain issues. It looks like this is actually one of the slowest generations to adopt the next gen for a while. Now, one of the reasons is because everything Microsoft and Sony have been releasing have largely been cross generation. I just bought God of War Ragnarok and played it on my baseline PS4, and it performed well.
Yeah, and I've been playing God of War Ragnarok on my PS4 Pro, and I've been able to actually play, between 50 and 60 FPS, 30 FPS if I want to play it in I don't know if it's 1440p or 2160. It's not native, it's checkerboard, but still, like the fact that those are options where I can choose better visuals or higher frame rate is on the PS4 Pro on last generation is impressive. So,
But this is the
you can still get the
year.
full experience.
This is the year where if you want to play Starfield or Redfall or Hellblade Senua's Saga, you need to have either an Xbox Series system or a PC. Or if you want to play Spider-Man 2, Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, you need a PS5. You can't do it on an older gen system. So this is going to be the year in which you start to see support, and I think it's going to happen with third parties as well. Like Dead Space Remake, I'm pretty sure is next gen only. I need to double check that, but I don't think it's PS4 or Xbox One.
Yeah, I think that's correct. Because I had that confused with Callisto Protocol, and that's on last generation.
So it's Capcom was merciful by also putting out RE4 remake and Street Fighter 6 on PS4. That is true. That is true.
Yep, that's
So
the thing.
not even there are third parties that are still so the push to the next generation is really slow this time around, which might actually make it feel like a short generation, even if it is 6 or 7 years long in the long run.
But also, don't forget they were supporting there was support for the PS2 until 2011.
Yeah, well, hey, what was it? 2020 was the last Just Dance game released for the original Wii.
Yeah, yep,
So,
that happened.
That did happen.
my last prediction for Microsoft, and it's because I'm sitting here like, wait a minute, it's been a while since it released Doom Eternal. A new Quake game is going to be announced. That's my prediction. Will it happen? I don't.
down.
I have no idea. But
as long as it's not Quake Champions, because at
So
first I was
down.
like, oh, that's gonna
Nope.
be great, and then, well, yeah.
No, I want to fight the Strogg again.
why don't we just pretend Quake 4 didn't exist so we can remake it as a good game?
Yes, that sounds good.
All right.
Um,
Ubisoft.
I think. Wait. So I was gonna say, should we like cut this off here and do predictions part 2?
No.
Where we hit, because we have Ubisoft, EA, Activision Blizzard, Square Enix, Sega, Capcom, Konami, and other. And it's
I have
10
a
o'clock.
feeling these are going to get really quick.
All right,
And we
rapid
could
fire.
just-
Let's go. Speed run. Put on AGDQ.
No,
All right,
so
all right.
Ubisoft, because there's not even much to say about Ubisoft other than that they've done terrible.
Nintendo gonna buy them. Done.
No.
Ubisoft sucks. EA sucks. Activision
Hey,
sucks. Square Enix sucks.
you're the reason we started at 8:30 and not 8, okay?
Oh,
Don't be rushing me now. They're going to start, they're not going to close, they're not going to go bankrupt yet. We're not going to see them get acquired, but we are going to see studio closures, especially considering they had some game cancellations. It's going to be partially economic and partially recession result. Assassin's Creed Mirage will be received favorably as a scaled down throwback Assassin's Creed game. That's all my predictions for them, though. I dare make no more, partially because I just don't care enough.
Here's
I was
my
gonna say,
prediction.
I
Stolen
really
Bones
just-
canceled.
Don't think about Ubisoft enough to make any predictions about Ubisoft.
I thought about putting Skull and Bones canceled. I'll let that be your prediction. In fact, I'll write it
Well,
down now.
apparently they've.
I'm in
I don't know if
viewing
this
mode.
is true though, but apparently they've refunded pre-orders for a certain platform.
Oh, dang. Oh, yeah, because I think it's been canceled on the platform. Yeah. Now, it's funny because you said EA stinks, and yet EA, I think, is going to have a very good year because we already got Dead Space coming out the gate, which is going to be really, really good. Or at least has been received very, very well. Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I mean, people like Jedi Fallen Order. Unless they screw up real big on Jedi Survivor, it's going to be received very well. And unless there's surprise microtransactions, which we must be cautious, this is EA. Wild Hearts, which is Koei Tecmo's spiritual successor to their Monster Hunter competitor that no one ever knew about except for a handful of people. I think all three of these games have a good chance of getting good critical reception and even commercial success. Mostly Dead Space and Star Wars. Don't know about Wild Hearts, but they're making a decent looking, or at least they're publishing a decent looking Monster Hunter competitor. And so it's, hey, you know, EA suddenly invested in games that aren't just, you know, sports games and live service multiplayer. I do think gamers will still drag them through the mud. One of the examples we could see this is Skate, the beta test that has evidence of a loot box system. But when looking at it very closely, it's evidently not that bad because you can see the items you might get from a loot box. They each got a rating. It's all in-game currency. There's no pay-to-win elements. So it sounds like they're trying to figure out a way to do loot boxes in a way that aren't gambling and aren't as predatory. So, and this is also going to be a free-to-play game. So Skate's going to be free-to-play. Having loot boxes and microtransactions isn't a surprise, but it doesn't feel predatory. So EA is still going to be trying EA all over the place, but it looks like they've learned where Ubisoft and Activision had not, it seems. Now, granted, this has happened before. So like with Microsoft, you got to be careful. But EA, I think, is going to have a good year. I also think Dragon Age 4 will have a proper reveal trailer, and we'll get a tease for Mass Effect, but nothing substantial.
I think these are fair.
Yeah, these are
Um,
this sounds pretty reasonable predictions to me. Actually, I think you're right. I think EA actually does have a really good year. I'm at least interested in most of these games.
I just
And
hope that this is the year where the sports gamers start saying that they've had enough, because those
it's
poor
not.
people, man, they're abused. It's not going to
I
happen though.
I know sports gamers. I know a guy who has a YouTube channel dedicated to Madden,
Oh,
and they're not. They're just not. They're
oh,
gonna keep going.
these poor
FIFA
souls.
players going to FIFA cards all over the place.
Well, you
Activision
can't anymore
Blizzard.
because FIFA is like, no, we're not associated with you anymore.
Oh, well, whatever their soccer game is going to be, yeah. Activision Blizzard. I do believe the Activision Blizzard deal will go through, but I do believe one of the concessions made is going to be that there's not going to be any Call of Duty on Game Pass unless the game is X years old or more. This is something that just came to me. I don't know why, but it is, considering how, and it's all Call of Duty. The only game they talk about is Call of Duty.
Which
So
is so odd to me because it's like, bro, World of Warcraft. Like,
it has been actually bleeding subscribers for a
I
while
mean, it
now.
has been, but that's still like the biggest MMO to date, really. Like, and
True,
dude,
it
if
is
they put
still
that
it
on
is
Game
still
Pass, that would be huge. We talked about that before.
it is still bigger than Final Fantasy 14, but at the same time, it's like World of Warcraft is not the pop culture phenomenon it was.
Yeah,
So, and that's the thing. Like, that's one of the reasons I think Blizzard is no longer who Blizzard was. But regardless of that, I do believe that something major like no Call of Duty on Game Pass, unless it is, because it would be unreasonable to say you can't play the original Modern Warfare or even Call of Duty 2 on Game Pass. Like, that would be
I think
unreasonable. But
I don't think they'll go as far as to say that no Call of Duty on Game Pass. I think they'll be like, like Call of Duty can't be exclusive to Xbox, which Sony has expressed. I mean, not Sony, but
Microsoft already given
Activision.
the deals out. Yeah.
Yeah, like they've already
They have a
expressed that.
team
Like,
dedicated to Nintendo Switch development.
that was wild to hear. Like,
So, yeah,
especially this late into the console's life.
they've already gone far enough to make it proof that they're going to keep it multi-platform. It's just, and that's the thing, like, rumor came about that the FTC was saying or rather, yeah, someone that evidently has an inside track to the FTC only did their lawsuit when they did because they were basically the EU was looking to make concessions and talk with Microsoft before they were ready. So they rushed their little lawsuit, um, and now it's all a cluster. And yeah, it's stupid politics stuff. It really is.
I mean, it always is.
But my
But
next prediction is that, and Steve, this would be your inside track element. The PvE mode of Overwatch 2 is released, but due to it still costs money to get that, right?
So here's what I will do a counter prediction here. My counter prediction. So
uh-oh.
you're saying it's going to cost money. It's going to make everybody
Well, no, no,
even
no.
more sour than they already are.
I thought, hold on, I thought they already said that, the multiplayer is free to play, but when the campaign comes out, it's going to cost money. Is that
So
correct or wrong?
my understanding is that they're going with the Destiny 2 model of the campaign, which is that you get the story mode essentially through the season pass. And if that's the case,
Oh
I think
no.
it will actually save the season pass. Because right now, Overwatch 2 has one of the weakest season passes that has ever passed a season. If you add a story mode to that, you add, PvP, PvE missions to that, because they've said it's going to be like almost like a modular campaign. I actually think that suddenly becomes a much better value, similar to Destiny 2. Destiny 2's like battle pass is terrible as a battle pass. Destiny 2 seasonal model where you pay $10 and you get a 8 or 9 week content drip feed with, PvE modes and exclusive PvE missions on the season pass, I think actually works really well as a storytelling method for a, ongoing game like Destiny has become. So I think if Overwatch does it right, I think this could actually end up being a big win for the Overwatch community, and it could win some people back. If they screw it up, though, yeah, I think this could kill Overwatch too, and people will be sad.
I'll add a note for you later then. I'll add a note that you are a counter prediction because mine is also based off of limited information. But I still won't be surprised if it's better than the reception to it suggests.
Yeah, I think it could go either way. I think it could either really get the community excited about it if it's done well, or it could just end up if it costs more in addition to the season pass to play PvE, I think it's going to be a riot. If like a riot as in the community is going
A laugh riot
riot,
kind of, or okay, that kind
right,
of riot.
like people are going to be angry. If it doesn't cost more, if it's part of the season pass, I think it'll actually end up being a big win.
Okay, that'll be interesting to see. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, Square Enix. I do think, despite the rough start with Forspoken, they're going to have a good year with Final Fantasy 16 and Rebirth being received well. We also know they've already got things like, for me, Theater Rhythm Final Bar Line, but they always have small releases sprinkled throughout. I know there are rumors circulating of a Final Fantasy 9 remake and also a Final Fantasy Tactics remaster port kind of a thing. So I didn't put predictions for either one of those, though I think I speculated, but no, I think Square Enix will have a generally good year as opposed to last year. And I did also predict that I will cave and hunt down a used PS5 so that I can play Final Fantasy 16. Note that I technically...
Chris, don't do it. Don't do it.
I technically already started because I asked my sister to keep an eye on Facebook Marketplace.
Uh-oh. Dude, play
They
Final
still use
Fantasy
PS5s
13 first.
at GameStop.
Okay, well,
I'm sure you could find them.
We're talking about Final Fantasy 16. Play Final Fantasy 13.
Of all of the JRPGs I have on my backlog, why do you think I would put Final Fantasy 13 at the front of the line?
Because it's secretly a great game that you'll love.
I highly doubt that.
For next podcast, remind me to talk about why Xenoblade Chronicles 2 should be more like Final Fantasy 13.
We will do not that. Square Enix will release their first crypto blockchain game, and it will be received negatively everywhere but Asian territories. And my logic for this is, technically Asian territories aren't so sour on the idea of blockchain yet. And most importantly, that's where gacha succeeds. And people don't care if their thousands of dollars invested go away once the game servers shut down. They're still willing to spend money after money after money to get their big boobied anime SSR rank character card that's barely animated. Like, dude, it's all about if crypto works anywhere in terms of video games, it's going to work in Japan and China and Korea.
Also, keep in mind that Dragalia Lost is going to shut down.
I thought it already did.
Did it? I might have missed it. But I mean, all that is gone. So
Yep.
if you're going to do any of that, by the way, if you're going to play any gacha games like that, at the very least, screenshot all your polls so that you have some kind of memory of them, because otherwise they're just going to go bye-bye.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't really put as much of it, but again, Hellblade Senua's Saga is going to be a Game of the Year contender at the Game Awards. Final Fantasy 16, actually, will both Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth be nominated for a Game of the Year award?
Well, it depends on how good Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth is. I think 16 is probably going to be on there. I think Spider-Man is going to be on there as well.
But
maybe Hi-Fi Rush if we're lucky.
It'll be forgotten by then, unfortunately.
I hope not, man. That game's good.
Sega. Now, I put this here because
Sega.
I put Hyenas as a flop, but isn't canceled this year. Do either one of you guys remember what Hyenas is?
No.
That's what I thought. And the funny thing is, for a while, for a minute, when Ubisoft announced they had canceled a bunch of their multiplayer games, I wondered if Hyenas was one of them. And then I remembered Hyenas is a Sega game by Creative Assembly, and yet everything about it screams Ubisoft. So, yeah, that game is going to flop, but I don't think it's going to be canceled yet. So that's just a prediction there.
Can I drop a crazy prediction?
Okay.
Alpha Protocol sequel.
No.
Absolutely not.
Partially because Obsidian. Like maybe Microsoft buys it or they do a deal like Nintendo does with Bayonetta where it's like they just fund more Alpha Protocol with Obsidian and Sega's like, all right, as long as we don't have to do
Sega does
anything.
have a good relationship with Microsoft, so
they do.
It's possible.
Sega's got a good relationship with like both Microsoft and Nintendo. It makes you wonder if there's something up with Sony. But yeah, one of the Like a Dragon's games will get a nod because remember, there's 2 coming out. Like a Dragon Ishin next month, and later, what is it? A man who must forget his name. I forget the full title, but it's basically the Like a Dragon 7.5.
Yeah, and that one's going to be a more traditional
Yep.
Yakuza game, I believe.
And I think
game of the year, calling it right now. Let's go.
All right, Joe, I'll put in your predictions. Like a Dragon, the blah 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 is Joey's game of the year. I do predict we will get a new 2D Sonic game to be announced.
I have my doubts on that because like Sega seems pretty like miffed ever since Sonic Mania came out, and like it did so well, and then Sonic Forces happened, and they like shoehorned the like it being tied to Sonic Mania, and it like devalued the product. But at the same time, I'm not gonna discount it because Sonic Origins did just come out, so I think the opportunity is there. But I don't know, man. I can't trust Sega with Sonic, and they got lucky with Frontiers, honestly.
You got any thoughts on that, Mr. Steve?
All I really want is a Sonic Heroes remake. So.
Oh, come on, man.
Next podcast. Save that debate for next podcast.
Only Team Sonic, though. Like, especially no Team Chaotix. We don't need that again.
No, we need Team Chaotix.
No, we don't. I don't want to have to stop to blow out torches.
They're detectives that you want on your side, okay? Team Chaotix.
Anyways, so again, here's where I put this is the last year I'm allowed. Well, okay, I'm not the last year, but Project Refantasy is finally given a proper reveal. Now, here's the thing. If we get a Persona 6 reveal first, be it a teaser trailer or anything, then I must, the future me, the me sitting in this chair, well, in a chair, January of 2024, recording this podcast, I must predict that in 2024, that Project Refantasy was canceled. If it already hasn't been announced in 2023 to have been canceled. Because again, announced in 2016, teased in 2017, and then nothing. Like, you're talking like Metroid Prime 4 is bad? Bro. Metroid Prime, like, 4 years for a game to be developed is not that unusual. This is approaching a decade. We're over 5 years. We're over half a decade at this point. This game has been in development and not a single thing. So, yeah, it's like they've got to reveal it at some point. But either of you guys get any like Sega specific? Because you guys might be more down with
I do.
Sega. You do.
So Shin Megami Tensei 5, maybe we'll get console ports. We'll ports to other consoles because that's only on Switch right now.
That's a possibility.
Maybe PC as well.
Yeah,
I'm down.
I could see that. All right,
But other than that,
Capcom.
I mean, yeah.
We got Pragmata gets. These guys are kind of hard because of the way they go with their releases, right? With their announcements. Because normally they've kind of got like their next year outlined, but the end of that year. So we already know that this year they've got Resident Evil 4 remake coming out. We've got Exoprimal coming out. And I feel like there was something else that they announced already that we know is coming. I can't remember. Well, I guess Pragmata, which we haven't heard of for like because this is from the end of 2021. In 2021, they basically said, "Sorry, we don't have new news. The game's going to be moved to 2023," and they haven't revealed anything new since. So, their ingenious move to try and introduce lollies into realistic graphics for the Western market, with Pragmata,
I
it's
don't like that.
I didn't
like
realize
that.
it until I was looking at parts of the trailer and I
I've
was
never
looking at the
heard
graphics. I'm like, oh my gosh, I know exactly what's going on here. Oh my goodness. Anyways, we will finally get a proper reveal, but my prediction is it will be delayed into 2024. Now, this is a shaky one. This is one where I actively could be wrong on very easily because, again, if they usually have their release schedule for that year pretty much outlined already, then their big hits this year: Resident Evil 4 remake. Oh, Street Fighter 6. I forgot about that. Street Fighter 6 and Exoprimal. Pragmata's probably what they intend to round it out with, but I also wouldn't be surprised if the rate that it's been going, it gets delayed to next year. But my real prediction is a new Mega Man game is announced. I do not mean Mega Man 12. I mean any Mega Man game that is brand new. Not a port, not a remaster, not a remake.
I have a prediction for that, real quick. I think there is going to be finally a follow-up to Mega Man Zero.
That
they
would be
did say
cool.
that Mega Man Zero would return. They also said X would return, but I'm gonna go with Zero.
Would they make it with Inti Creates, or would they do their own internal team or a new team?
And I would hope it's Inti Creates, but I don't think so.
But yeah, new Monster Hunter World title is announced is also because they know they've been working on a new Monster Hunter World specifically. It might feel like too soon because of Rise being ported to everything, but I do think we've got a new Monster Hunter World at least in the announcement phase. And then I noted Resident Evil 4 remake has more mixed critical reception than the Dead Space remake, just because the Dead Space remake is very close to what Dead Space was. And a lot of people, like I watched a few videos and just about everyone is also unanimous where it's like Dead Space didn't really need to be remade, but holy crap, did they make a case with this, but they still retained the spirit of the original. Whereas Resident Evil 4 remake looks like they're
It's gonna be more serious.
changing it in a lot of ways. Like they're keeping it a spirit. Like there's nothing that feels more Resident Evil 4 in their trailer than shooting the lantern onto the cow to make it run crazy into the other village. Like that is a perfectly Resident Evil 4 kind of crazy game design idea.
Or blocking a chainsaw with your gun.
I thought it was the knife. I thought he was blocking
No,
with the knife.
he used his gun, dude.
God.
It was so fun. Like I saw that and I was like, dude, this game looks baller. Let's go.
But so much of it looks like they're also changing things. And that's the thing, Resident Evil 4 is another one of those games that does not need to be remade, but Steve, you don't really play Capcom games anymore because you're lame. So I'm assuming you got no
Super
predictions.
lame.
Would you play Mega Man though?
I got nothing. I'm not good at Mega Man. It's
I mean, you don't. Nobody's actually good at Mega Man. Let's be real.
it's true.
I'm looking at you, speedrunner.
Can we finally get you to play a Monster Hunter? You know what? Again, you'll hate every Monster Hunter game until you play the Horizon Monster Hunter game, and then you'll be like, guys, this game is so good. All right.
Steve, play
Finally,
Monster Hunter with us. You got Game Pass,
Konami
right?
and other, which I think should be, there we go. What sported the other, well, Konami in general. Joey's hot take prediction: Metal Gear Solid 4 gets a multi-platform remaster for PC and modern consoles. So
Ain't
what do you
happening.
think?
But wouldn't it be wild?
So
Speaking of 2-hour unskippable cutscenes.
Yeah.
we're almost done. We're almost done. Konami announces a new Castlevania is my first one.
Huh.
The rumors of a Metal Gear remake are real is my second prediction. My third prediction is that Silent Hill 2 gets mixed reception because Bloober Team is only mildly competent.
That'll definitely be true.
And then unrelated to Konami, this will be the most contentious Game Awards year in memory. But you'll still only see the same 5 or 6 games across all categories. But and also Bungie announces their new non-Destiny game finally. But I do think, when you look at this year's slate of games, there's going to be a lot of, I think every nominee, because even this year was like, everyone knew it was down to Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok, but there were some games on there that it's like, why is this here? It doesn't really have a chance. I think 2023, we're going to look at the nominees and be like, yo, I don't know what's going to be the winner. And also, speaking of games that got announced but have never come out, and I'm deathly afraid. Like, I feel like I should just predict that they're vaporware by now, but maybe I should. Maybe that's like it's about fate, right? God wants me to be wrong about things, so I should just say, like I predict that Dokkaebi and Crimson Desert will never come out, and then God will be like, shows you. Yay, I was wrong. I get to play these good-looking games, So,
Yeah, Dokkaebi, that looks so cool. I like that.
Yeah, that game looked sick. I had no idea what was happening, but I wanted to be part of it.
so one of those games is coming out this year. That's my prediction. I would lean
one is
towards
canceled.
Dokkaebi, and I hope no. That would be too cruel. But I lean towards Dokkaebi being towards releasing this year. But if either Dokkaebi or Crimson Desert, what would be, bittersweet is if they both released and then I didn't have time to play both of them because they both look good.
Isn't Crimson Desert just like a Korean MMO?
No, that's Black
No, that's
Desert.
Black Desert.
But Crimson Desert, I don't know if it is related now, but it started at the very least like a Black Desert single player kind of game. And I think it is in the universe.
Dude, I loved when we first saw that trailer in the 2020 Game Awards, and we're like, oh, all right, this looks pretty.
It might have been
And then,
2019.
was it 2019?
It might have
It's
been.
been a while.
No,
No,
2020.
2020. You're
I was
right.
looking at this
You're right.
Yeah,
I
and,
honestly, I saw it and I was like, this looks like a Korean MMO.
it might
Just
be.
because you're lame and you are going to sit here and tell us why Forspoken's not actually that bad after all.
I mean, maybe it isn't that bad after all.
And none of you will have played it to argue with me, which is why I will be the only.
Because we'll be
definitive voice
playing
on the
Hi-Fi
internet.
Rush instead.
Well, yeah, dude, Hi-Fi Rush is like 10 hours. I can play that and Forspoken.
At the same time. You got me. You can
All
do it.
right.
Well, no, I honestly, this is what's gonna happen. I'm gonna pull my Series S up into the living room. I'm gonna play through Hi-Fi Rush, or not the living room, the family room in the mornings, while I'm playing Forspoken at other times, and then I'll just have done it all.
All right. Anybody else got
You'll
any?
transcend.
Anybody else got any predictions other than Steve's about to pass out any minute now?
I thought I had an additional one, but no, I don't know. I think I'm just gonna say this. As far as games of the year go, Tears of the Kingdom, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is going to be on there. The new Hellblade Senua's Saga, Final Fantasy 16. I think Forza Motorsport is going to be on there. I think that's going to be on there. And what's another one? Spider-Man. I think.
Well,
that's Spider-Man.
I'm going to leave room for the games that we don't know about yet, because they're always,
I'm gonna
especially
stick
from
with this the whole
Nintendo.
year like a dummy.
The Temple of the Unknown games.
Well, especially from Nintendo, they love their surprise announcements. And again, like even freaking Microsoft came out with one. So, by the way, here's a brand new game, and it's out today. Go download it. So,
Could you imagine them shadow dropping Metroid Prime 4? That would be the biggest dick move. Like,
well, it would be the biggest
yes.
of, you know,
it just
moves. It would be like,
I mean, it
The
would
they
be
bring-
move of the one.
they bring Reggie
big ol' large
Fils-Aimé.
one.
They bring Reggie Fils-Aimé back just so he could just whoop Metroid Prime 4. And that's it. Like,
They would never do that because they would build it up. They'd have a direct dedicated to it and everything.
sort of. I mean, again, Metroid Dread was just a few months before it came out. It just had a treehouse segment. They're going to have a treehouse segment. E3 is going to be
yeah.
back. They're going to have a treehouse segment. Maybe. If it comes out this year, it'll have a treehouse segment, but I doubt it's coming out this year.
I have my doubts, but who knows? Maybe they'll pull a Dread and just like this July comes around, like June or July comes around, and they're like, "Yo, by the way, it's coming out in 2 months." I would lose it.
I mean, that's kind of where they're
absolutely lose my
going now. Like, there's like there are very few games at this point. Like, it's amazing Tears of the Kingdom got teased the way it did. Most of Nintendo's games at this point are like, by the way, in like 3 months we got this game coming out. What? Like, what? You have what now? So here we go.
Yeah.
Like, that'll be my favorite. It's like, by the way, we have a completely 3D remake. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh.
Uh-oh. What are you oh my godding about?
I'm just in my mind imagining, because I'm thinking about Link's Awakening and how amazing it looks. And if they were like, by the way, I think that's Grezzo, right? I think Grezzo's the developer of that.
It was Grezzo. Are you thinking the Oracle games?
No. I'm thinking, hey guys, we got Team Grezzo to remake Mother 2 with the claymation style of the characters in the strategy guide.
Not happening.
It's not happening. It's not. But oh my
Absolutely
god.
not.
Oh, talk about wishlist games that'll never happen but would be so amazing. Oh my god. That would be amazing.
Pipe dreams though. And that's what keeps us going.
Yeah. Yeah. Just so we could be let down by reality.
I mean, I'm having fun still.
This is true. Because then we get surprises like Solstice. Anyways, all right, let's let Steve get to sleep.
I gotta get to sleep too.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably not go right to sleep because I make mistakes with my life.
I make mistakes too, but
But no. Thanks guys for joining, and of course thanks everyone in chat. Thanks Christophers. It's been like 5 years since the last full Mario game, so I'm gonna need to see their work on that. That'll be a Switch 2 launch thing. I don't think we're getting, like, because I know people have speculated Super Mario Odyssey sequel. I don't think we're gonna get one of those until a launch. Stream a game to entertain me. Not tonight. I've been wanting to actually do something with a stream again. I thought about streaming some Fire Emblem Engage, but went
well, there's
against
a
it.
Splatfest coming up soon. We could simulcast.
There is some stuff we might be able to do with that, yeah. But again, after I eventually get done this Darksiders video, I'm going to that's been so slow going. I hate it. But no, when I'm eventually done that, I definitely plan on streaming a hard mode of Darksiders. So, all right, pour scotch and entertain me. I don't have scotch. Buy me scotch. Send me money for scotch. Subscribe to my channel so I can get money for scotch. So
Don't do that. Don't promote bad behavior.
and that's why I removed the Christian tag from the stream.
Did you really?
I actually did because it didn't see. Well, also because you keep slipping once in a while, so I was like, you know
I
what?
mean,
Let's
I
just.
do.
Also, we just talked about Reggie whipping his big Fils-Aimé out and denouncing.
That's what he calls it. All right.
Okay.
Enough.
All right. You know what? Here's a
Oh,
promise.
that's
At some
good.
point, we're going to do a live podcast from Joey's place. A live A Steve. That's my promise right now. I vow to you guys.
All right.
Go.
I'm down.
Have
We'll
a-
order some Bravo. We'll
Oh,
break out some drinks and we'll have a live podcast. I'm down.
All right. Have a good one, guys. Have a good night.
Good night.
Once I were trying to
Have a
remember
good
where end
night.
stream is, there it is.